It's 10 years since the property's transferred from Bolton Council to Bolton at Home after a tenants ballot, where the vast majority of tenants voted for the transfer. So I wanted to talk a bit about what we've done since then and also what we need to do in the future. The reason for the transfer was investment. We didn't have any money as a council at the time to be able to invest into the properties for improvements, for new windows, kitchens, doors, those sorts of things. The rules around housing funding didn't allow councils to build new homes. So the offer to tenants was not just about the properties they lived in, but also an offer to people who were waiting for housing, who were in housing need. And since then we've built hundreds of properties all over Bolton and outside of Bolton for affordable rent. We started doing some shared ownership, and we've also carried out huge improvement programmes like the flats around here and across all other estates, and there's still more to do. But we've prided ourselves in meeting all the promises that were made in terms of the offer document to tenants, but that doesn't mean that we're short of work, because 18,000 properties in Bolton, some of them quite old, some of them been built for 100 years, and therefore keeping on top of that and making sure that the repair service and the improvements we do is just an ongoing job for us, really. I'm very proud to be Chief Exec of Bolton. I'm very proud to have come through from being a trainee to being Chief Exec in my hometown, but that doesn't mean there should be any level of complacency. A lot of our staff live here, a lot of our staff were born here. You know, we take pride in what we do, but we also recognise that we got a job to do, and that job is really important. And particularly over the last 12 months during COVID, the pressures on tenants, the pressures on the staff have been quite intense, not just pressure at work, but pressure at home, and we've not been able to provide the full range of services that we've been able to do in previous years. So things like fly tipping, social distancing for repairs operatives when they're doing a house or a repair has meant there's been delays, there's been slowdowns. And we weren't allowed to do repairs during the first 3 months of the COVID pandemic, other than emergency repairs, so we've got a catch-up to do, but we've got plans to make sure we do that catch-up. And it's really good when you see things coming good, when things work, as they have done in many, many occasions, but it's also important where we get it wrong, we hold our hands up and say we've got it wrong, and deal with complaints that we get in a timely fashion. And that's one of the areas that we're focusing on coming out of COVID, is really revamping and ramping up really the way that we deal and learn from complaints that come in and get back to where we were and better than where we were before. And the world won't be the same, but we'll make sure that the services get back as they should be and keep on improving them. So one of the big challenges we've got is green space. You know, amongst the 18,000 properties we've got an awful lot of land. Open land needs maintenance, but also communal areas, and keeping on top of that and making sure we enhance the offer around the green spaces that we've got is a real priority for us. And we need to work with tenants to do that. It's not something that we can do on our own. Loads of tenants volunteer to do things like litter picking, food growing projects, all sorts of stuff. But we need to work together with tenants and stop fly tipping, making sure that people value the space that they've got so that we can keep it well maintained, really usable space that the community can enjoy. So as well as the green space, we've obviously got a number of other challenges coming up in the future. One of which is to get centres like the Willows Community Centre behind me back up and running, because before COVID this was a hive of activity, different groups, food growing projects, cookery clubs, all sorts of things taking place here, and obviously during COVID that's had to take a bit of a back seat because of the regulations. But Bolton at Home are really keen to make sure we invest in over 100 groups across the town, the people who meet here being several of them, where we can support tenants to basically make their communities better, whether that's like I say, a food growing project, or doing something with young people or with elderly people on the estate, a whole range of different projects. And that's part of what we're about, because anything that we make isn't classed as a profit, it's classed as a surplus, which we then reinvest back into these sorts of community projects, and that's what makes us different than a private landlord. As well as making sure we get the repairs and the improvements programme sorted out, we're also refinancing to be able to build even more properties for the large numbers of people who sit on the council's housing waiting list, so that they get a chance of a property at a good affordable rent. So we're drawing down more money from our banks to be able to do that. But one of the biggest challenges is going to be the carbon reduction and climate change emergency. As we come out of COVID, we've got 18,000 properties that we need to make sure are as carbon neutral as possible, and that's a huge piece of work across the next 20 years. And the cost of that is running to around about £500 million, which is more money than Bolton at Home itself has. So we're making the use of any government grants, any partnerships, any other available resources to make sure that, first of all, tenants' fuel bills come down, but also that properties aren't contributing to the climate disaster is really, really important to all housing associations and all landlords and all owner-occupiers, because that's now going to be a requirement placed on us. So people will be seeing over the next 10 years insulation works to make sure the properties are thermally efficient, air source heat pumps possibly rather than gas boilers, things like that, which are there for two purposes. One, to make sure the heating bills come down for tenants, particularly people who are currently on all electric, because actually they will see a serious reduction in terms of the fuel bills if we get it right, but also to make sure that we've got a planet, that we've got stuff that our kids can enjoy in the future, that we've got green space, that we've got a quality of life. The third aspect to it though is we've invested in Trinity Retail Park. It's just been in the local press, and what we want that to be is a green hub, not just for Bolton but for Greater Manchester and the North West, where training can take place both for our staff but importantly for tenants, because the future of jobs in places like Bolton is going to be linked very much to that green revolution, and we want to make sure that Bolton is at the centre of that. So working with Bolton Council, business partners, the private sector, to really get that off the ground and give people a future in terms of employment as well as efficient, affordable housing. Absolutely massive to us, and I think it's something that's really important for future generations. I probably won't see it through. Many people watching this video may not see it through, but it's something that's really important for making sure that the quality of life that people have can be maintained and improved in the future, and jobs go a long way towards doing that. So in conclusion, 10 years on, Bolton at Home, there's things that we and the tenants can be really proud of. There's other things which we still need to put more effort into getting right, and there's some big challenges for the future. But we want to make sure that we do that with yourselves, and we actually get things as right as we can do in a world that throws some curveballs at you like it has with COVID over the last 12 months. So it's been great being able to speak to you 10 years on from when Bolton at Home took over the housing stock from Bolton Council. As I said earlier in the piece, we've managed to fulfil all the promises that were made at the time, but there's still a way to go, particularly on bread and butter services, making sure that they adapt and that we come out of the COVID epidemic, we catch up with the repairs backlog, things like that. But I hope that my success is here to talk about that being a success in 10 years' time. And it's been great to talk to you from the Willows estate, which is when I first started in the first permanent job in housing, I collected the rents here, which was fantastic. And I really hope that as we come out of COVID, we're able to meet in places like Willows Community Centre, not socially distanced, and be able to talk to each other in person a lot more like we were 12 months ago. Thanks very much.